Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Eli Aguilar, and today we have a very special episode in Decoding Yoga. As hopefully you have been listening to the previous episodes, we have been decoding breath with our lovely Inga. She is my colleague in Sampoornayoga, and today we have the third part of this topic. And as I promised last week, today the start of the talk is the CO2. A gas that usually people think that is not a good one, that people actually want to get rid of it. Even in Costa Rica, and I have read this in internet, they recommend plants that you can put in your room to absorb all the CO2. And yes, excess of everything is not good for our body, but today we will learn that this is the key for a healthy breathing, and we will be decoding another myth about the breath. One of the myths that we already decode was to take a deep inhale in, that more is better when we take the oxygen. The taking those long, deep inhalations will calm you down. That is a myth. And today, the myth is that holding your breath is not good, it's not positive. So, Inga, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you, Ellie. Yeah, so jumping on that myth, I think it takes us well into, the star of the show, the carbon dioxide. So like, again, that myth that we hear oftentimes in yoga, teachers saying, then we're moving through a challenging practice and we just get warned, like, don't hold your breath, don't hold your breath, continue to breathe, don't forget to breathe, like, and God forbid, don't hold your breath, because we think that like disconnects us, right, from that thread, or it's bad and it's stressful. But actually holding the breath, especially if we do it consciously with this knowledge, when we understand the effect and the functions that take place in our body, it can actually be very healing and a way to restore our natural breathing and that functional breathing. So taking it back to, the carbon dioxide, again, just understanding how it gets produced in our body is that we inhale oxygen, and when that oxygen is taken in our body, we inhale into our lungs, it reaches our alveoli, we take the oxygen, and then it gets exchanged for carbon dioxide, and then we release the excess, right? So just through breathing, there's always that exchange happening. As we inhale, there's carbon dioxide. So this process continues to happen, at all times throughout our lives. And one of the ways, the primary ways that carbon dioxide gets increased or produced in our bodies is through movement, right? And when we used to move more, I think we were in a healthier place when it came to our breathing, because our daily lives involved moving, walking, running, and just being more physically active. And naturally, through that process, our body was producing more carbon dioxide because it needs the energy, right? So it's taking the oxygen and is producing the carbon dioxide just through that metabolism process. So as we breathe, obviously that exchange is happening. Oxygen to carbon dioxide is getting produced. And hopefully we would want it to be in that balanced place, that there's a threshold, that it's enough for it to release the oxygen. So movement is the way that more carbon dioxide gets produced. And another way that we can increase the carbon dioxide, right, is when we hold our breathing, especially after the exhale. Because what happens, we inhale, and if we exhale and then hold our breathing, by holding our breathing, we're not taking more oxygen, right? But as we're holding that breathing, that exchange continues to happen in our body. So oxygen is taken, and then carbon dioxide is accumulating, and it's rising because we're not exhaling. It's building up, and that is what makes you feel out of breath. That you need to inhale, right? Because again, the trigger to inhale is not lack of oxygen, it's the buildup of carbon dioxide. So through holding our breathing, especially after the exhale, you're going to very quickly notice or get a sense of how your body tolerates this carbon dioxide. And the shorter your ability to hold the breath, especially after the exhale, the quicker you feel out of breath, the more sensitive you are to carbon dioxide. And chances are, the more you are living in a state where you're continuously not having enough carbon dioxide. If just holding the breath for a tiny bit makes you feel very out of breath, it's revealing to you that you're very, very sensitive to that carbon dioxide. And then what that again informs us is that you will probably be breathing faster and heavier, right? Because you're not tolerating it well. So any moment it increases a little bit, you're forced to inhale, because the trigger to inhale is carbon dioxide. It's not lack of oxygen. So then it makes you inhale, and then it makes you breathe faster and heavier. The less you are able to tolerate the carbon dioxide. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and also actually that makes me think about what happens in the nervous system, right? Because if you are in that state, basically you stay in the alert mode, the fight or flight mode that you were telling us before, like keeping us alert, keeping us on our toes, basically, right? That you have to react all the time. So we continuously live in this state of stress. Now, this is how interesting this gets, because when I go back to revise the pranayama techniques that we have learned, none of them says through the mouth or any of that. Actually, the more you advance in the pranayama techniques, in some of these pranayamas, is when you start practicing retention. And the retention in the inhalation is the easy part, right? When you are full of oxygen and you retain the breath, you hold the breath there, it's quite easy. It's kind of like you're okay. But the moment that you exhale.
Yeah, just to jump in on that what makes it easy is not that there's more oxygen, it's that the carbon dioxide is less.
Exactly. So you don't feel agitated, right? You don't feel agitated. But when we do when you start advancing in these practices, the more advanced practice in pranayama techniques is when you actually retain the breath out. Now, that is advanced, because I have been practicing that and I'm not there yet. But there is another way to actually start making our tolerance or your use to the CO2 in a better way before we jump into the retention. Can you share that? Very simple, very accessible for everybody. Nevertheless, I've been trying to do that since you told me, especially when I'm in movement, not only in my asana practice, but when I'm in the gym, when I'm doing cardio. And it's not easy, but at least a bit easier than retaining the breath out. Can you please talk about the nasal breathing?
Yes, exactly. And just to finish off what you were saying, that it's more advanced, or, pranayama is about retention. Exactly that. That's what I've been reading in books that are looking back to the yoga scriptures, that the pranayama used to be synonymous with retention. It was never that much about this expansion or just the hyperventilation that we've made it to be. Almost, they have their value, but the yoga masters were able to control their breathing so much that they would breathe one breath a minute, and it was all about retention. The calmer the breath, the calmer the mind. But yes, that holding the breath is the more advanced place where, we're going to really increase that carbon dioxide very quickly, but equally maybe too much. It can feel too stressful if we're used to over breathing through the day and we're constantly, on low levels, and then bam, we hold our breathing. We're just going to feel very quickly out of breath because we're not used to that. So before we jump there, what we want to start with, which is the absolute foundation for healthy functional breathing, is to restore nasal breathing. Again, our nose is for breathing. Our mouth is a backup system. It was never designed to be the primary way to breathe. It has zero functions when it comes to breathing. The nose has over 30 different unique functions for breathing, most of them. The mouth has zero benefits when it comes to breathing. So of course, if something is obstructing your nose, as a one-off, it's fine to breathe through the mouth. But as a day-to-day breathing, and when we're at rest, when we're sleeping, and when we're exercising and working out, we should be breathing through the nose, because it has all the benefits. the primary actions of the nose. And again, there are 30 functions. I don't even, know all of them or would remember, but the nose filters the air we breathe. It moistens the air that we inhale, that we take into the lungs. It regulates and slows it down, right? Because the nose is a much smaller cavity through which to inhale compared to the mouth. So I think it gives that airflow twice the resistance, 2 times stronger resistance for that stream of air to come in through the nose compared to the mouth. So it really slows your breathing down. And by now we know that slower and lighter, calmer breath is the more natural, the more functional and healthy breathing. And there's like crazy connections that our nose is more connected to our diaphragm. They have a relationship. When you breathe through the nose, it's more likely going to go and engage that functional diaphragmatic movement. When we breathe through the mouth, we inhale more. That air is cold. It's not filtered. We could get ill much more quickly, probably taking in those microbes and bacteria. That first line of defense is not kicked in. And when we breathe through the mouth, more often it's associated with chest breathing, shallow breathing. And it's just fascinating to see that, you think, what's the difference? It's the same air we're taking in, but it's a huge difference. And oftentimes breathing through the mouth can be the self-reinforcing habit. The more you breathe through the mouth, the more it congests your nose, the more there's inflammation in the lungs. And asthmatic people, often you get caught up in this vicious cycle. The more you breathe through the mouth, the less you're able to breathe through the nose. Mm-hmm. And the way to break that cycle would be restore nasal breathing, which doesn't start easy, but it gets easier and easier because that's what your body is meant to breathe through.
Yeah, as I said, I've been practicing this when I'm moving, and it has changed. It has changed not only my physical state, but my mental state. Because as you said, the thing that I have noticed the most when I consciously, I have to do it consciously and intentionally to breathe only through my nose, especially when I'm moving, is, as you said, the speed of the exhalation reduces. Right, when you do it through your mouth, when you are running or something like that, it's very quick and it's a lot. You go very fast in the exhalation, but when you have to exhale the air, even when you are tired, when you're agitated, when your heart rate is elevated, so to breathe slower to your nose, it actually helps me to recover faster, right? Because it's kind of calming me down without. It's been magical, honestly, to do the change. I'm just starting to be very aware of this, but I've been practicing this, and I can see some changes of how my heart comes back to normal quicker, and my mind stays calmer, right? Because my exhalation has to go slower. It has, as you said, it doesn't have the space. It has all these little hairs. It can like stop the air when it's coming down. So it's fascinating to see all these patterns of breathing that we have learned that are not as healthy as we thought, and how, as you said, when we compare these science, the new science talking about the breath and how we should do it, when we compare it to the ancient texts of philosophy, we see that this is how we were intended to breathe all the time. So to close this topic, because I know we can talk the whole year about this, but hopefully to close it for next episode, next week, I would like to invite you to come and give us some practical tips. Like, okay, I would love to do the test that we did, like to see where is our breath, is our breath functional? Because a lot of times we think because we are we exercise, we practice yoga, we are healthy, we have a good breathing practice, or we're healthy, we have a healthy breathing pattern. Maybe not. Actually, I discovered that I don't. So we can do the test of that, and maybe some practical exercises that our audience can practice with us. And this is something that we have to start doing ourselves, and hopefully in yoga classes, if you are a yoga teacher and you're listening to this, we start applying these breathing techniques to what we are also in practice and moving away from that honestly, I don't know where these things came from, on sighing out and not holding the breath when we should be doing the opposite. So do we have a date for next week and do these practical exercises? Yeah?
Yes, looking forward to it.
Awesome, awesome. So I will see you back here next time that you come and for next week that you come in and listen to the episode. Have your phone with you or something that you can time your breath so we can do this exercise together. Inga, thank you so much again for such a interesting information, and I will see you and hear you back here next week. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the week. Bye bye.
Lovely. Thank you, Ellie.
Hi, and thank you so much for watching this video. After so many years of teaching in yoga teacher training courses, I realized that a lot of people don't understand exactly what yoga is, or they have a lot of misconceptions and doubts. And that's why I created the podcast Decoding Yoga. Every week, I share a new episode with you where I talk about cues, about postures, about yoga as a lifestyle, about these myths, these doubts, these ideas that we have been repeating in yoga classes, and we don't even know what they mean. We don't understand what those cues mean, and we keep repeating them. So we have repeated so many times that we believe they're true. So I hope you can join me in the next episode. You can watch the video here, or you can look for the show in any of the audio platforms available. And if you have a question, a doubt, you have heard a myth about yoga and you want some clarification, let me know below this video and I will be happy to create a program to reply to you. Thank you.